This week's show brought to you by SCAD, Scott Countyans Against Drugs. Welcome everybody to the Scott County Cardinals News Graphic Coaches Show, Week 3, coming to you from the beautiful air-conditioned offices of the News Graphic. And I say that because 24 hours before this taping, we were outside at practice, and it is a sweltering week outside. That's going to be a factor as Scott County prepares for this week's game. We'll talk about that later on in the show. We're coming off a nice, cool Friday night, a late Friday night at Toyota Stadium as Scott County hosted Lafayette in the second game of the Blanton Collier Classic. Southwestern and Dunbar played in Game 1, so the second game kicked off around 9 o'clock, did not end until the stroke of midnight. A lot of long drives, a lot of points, a lot of penalties, a lot of turnovers, a lot of early season type things in that game, and it was a tough one, tougher than expected. As Lafayette took a 28-27 lead on the opening drive of the third quarter, they went the length of the field, punched one in to take what's, by any accounts, was a surprising lead for the Generals. Nobody really expected them to be in that game except for themselves, probably. But Scott County answered with a 12-play, 85-yard drive, capped by one of Austin Barnett's, count 'em, 6 touchdowns in that one, as that put Scott County back on top, and the Cardinals scored the final 32 points in a 59-28 final that was a rout on paper, but nothing like that for the most of the duration of that game. Coaches and players alike will tell you they underestimated Lafayette a little bit going into that one, which is funny because 2-3 years ago we were talking about the Generals as the team you had to go through. They were kind of the bar that was set to get to the Class 6A state final, and Scott County dropped 3 in a row, 2 in the state semifinal, or state playoffs. 1 was the semifinal. They were kind of the nemesis, the game that the Cards couldn't get past. Then last year that changed a little bit with the 31-21 win. That one also not as close as it looked in the final on the final scoreboard, but just something about that rivalry takes a lot out of you. Puts Scott County. Brings the worst out of them at times in terms of turnovers and penalties, but they got the job done to go 2-0 and to move up to number 2 in the state in this week's Class 6A first regular season rankings, the Associated Press media poll. So just a notch behind Mail there, and Trinity actually third with 2 losses. So it's going to be interesting to see that change during the season as Trinity played a monster schedule out of the gate against some out-of-state opponents. But Scott County getting respect. You know, as fans, we tend to be critical of things we see on the field, and maybe it wasn't a clean, neat win, but they're getting respect statewide for sure. And they go into, speaking of the rankings, what's going to be a tough game this week on paper, certainly, as they go to Fort Thomas to face the 4th-ranked team in 5A, Highlands High School. The Bluebirds coming off 2 easy wins to their credit as well against Cooper and Caldwell County. Campbell County, excuse me. They won those 2 games, and out of the gate, same thing they did last year, so let's not read too much into that because SC put one on them at Toyota Stadium that night, 71-20. I don't think anybody thinks it's going to be that easy this year for a couple of reasons. One, you're going north to the shadows of the Ohio River Bridge to take on Highlands, a place where if you've never been there, it's a bowl of a stadium. A lot of pressure, a lot of fans right on top of you. It's going to be a different challenge than Scott County's faced in a while. They went up there 2 years ago and won. The other thing, the temperature, as we said, is going to be a factor. The weather, it's going to be a challenging environment. You're going to want to, hopefully Scott County's depth will come into play again as it did last week, play to their advantage against the smaller school. Coach McKee, he'd been juggling that heat index this week. Early in the season, early in the summer, in preseason workouts, you might expect that. But when you get back to school in August, you're hoping for a little more fall weather. Not the case. And they had to do some finagling to get around the requirements of the heat index rules this week. Let's see what Coach McKee had to say about that and about the game against Highlands. After-school practice in August poses challenges due to the heat index.
Here's what happens during the summer. During the summer, when the heat index gets to a certain level, you know, we got to follow whatever the guidelines are. I mean, that's very serious, and there have been a ton of improvements made in the last 20 years, especially in the last 6 to 8 for the health and safety of the kids. And obviously, whether it's my son, your son, or anybody's son, that has to be priority 1. Well, the only negative to that is that really can interrupt what you do practice-wise. You know, when you have to take 10-minute breaks, take your gear on and off. So what we can do before school starts is we can either go early enough or late enough that we can get the heat index down to where we can just have a normal practice like it's October. Well, you know, I don't want to send the kids home after school, and so that is a little bit of a challenge every year the first 2 or 3 weeks of school when we get really hot days like today. But we got, you know, that, and that's a fine line because, you know, no coach wants to push a player past where he needs to be pushed, and at the same time you have a responsibility to get the player prepared to play the game on Friday. And that, have you ever been there?
Oh yeah, 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah, you know, it's like the school, it's like a little sauna in there. So I mean, it's going to be hot. We got to do a little bit better tomorrow than we did today.
Long drives were the rule for the Scott County offense versus Lafayette.
Well, the defense doesn't want to have to play 78 plays. If the defense has to play 78 plays, we're in trouble. You know, the defense wants to go 3 and out. So what about 7 3 and outs? The best night for the defense would be 21 plays. But yeah, we did have to play a lot. Yes, we had to play a lot offensively, and we did fine. And I think we'll do fine this Friday. It's just yesterday and today were the first 95 to 98 heat index days.
Trailing midway through the third quarter last week was a good test for the Cards.
Well, we responded. I don't think anybody panicked. I really think we came, and we're calling this the coming together party in Fort Thomas, serving Gold Star chili. All right? I mean, you know, we came together at halftime a little bit. I said, guys, you know, we're in here cussing and getting mad and throwing helmet and being upset, and we've scored 27 points in the first half and had 2 fumbles and got stopped in the red zone. So 27, 35, 42.
48,
I think that's 48, 49 points if we don't fumble the ball or get stopped in the red zone. So let's chill out here. And I think a hard thing for a kid to understand, and really even for you or anybody to understand, unless you're right in that inner workings of what's going on offensively, that every team is going to give you certain things. And if you go back and look at like last year, we had some games like the Moeller game and the St. X game where we completed like 8 or 9 balls to our wideout. Then we had like the LaSalle game where we completed 0 balls out there. You know, so we got to figure out if we're doing things right and executing at the level that we need to and want to, hopefully they can't take everything away. So what we got to figure out is what are they giving us, and we got to take advantage of that.
Scott County running backs found the corner for a flurry of long gains against Lafayette.
You know, in their mind, they still got 9 up. But really for us, people talk about, have you ever heard this? I know you have. That's why I keep to, they're stacking the box.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been stacking the box against us for 20 years. That doesn't bother us, they quote unquote stack the box. It's about finding the creases and the angles and where their defense is aligned. So they felt like if they can commit 2 to our wideout, they can still put the other 9 guys in the right alleys and angles to stop us. And we were able to figure out, you know, sort of where they weren't, and we were able to go there and attack. But now we're going to get beat if we you know, have 2 unforced fumbles in games like that. I mean, we're not going to beat really good teams doing that.
Highlands has been one of Kentucky's elite programs for more than a century.
You know, one thing that I admire so much about Fort Thomas is just how hard their kids play from the snap to the whistle. You know, 4.5 seconds or whatever it is on average. You know, they're really going hard, and it really means a ton to them. They really want to do well. They care a lot. There'll be a big crowd. It'll be a tough environment. So, you know, we need to respond to that. We need to come together. It's a come together party.
That was Coach McKee talking about the heat, and the heat kind of wears on some of the big guys, so we wanted to talk to a couple of the bigger guys that wear the Cardinal red. We talked to defensive end Zach Coleman, and we talked to left guard Cam Carpenter. Both seniors, both excited about the 2-0 start, and both excited about the Cards' potential going forward. Let's hear what they had to say about last week's win and this week's game up in Fort Thomas. Getting used to the heat during the week is intended to make Friday night games easier.
Yeah, it's been pretty hot, but, you know, we just trying to fight through all the heat and, you know, practice, get the game plan right for Friday night.
I mean, you know,
It wore us down a little bit, but once we come out here and practice, we're going to get in shape. You know, practice is pretty much our conditioning. You know, like you said, getting reps, keep getting reps, and that's pretty much our conditioning.
The players admit to taking Lafayette lightly.
Yeah, I mean, after playing North Bullitt, we just thought we were about to come out there and it was going to be another blowout game, and we kind of, you know, played them down a little bit. But after halftime, when we came back out, we just knew what we had to do, and we got the job done.
Oh yeah, there was definitely overconfidence. We underestimated them completely, and I feel like that's why they stuck with us until the second half. But once we got out in the second half, we knew what we were doing. We had to execute.
Highlands is a unique atmosphere for high school football.
It's crazy. It's just like hot. Everybody's so close together. The crowd seems like they're just breathing down your neck.
Both teams in Friday night's game are ranked in the top 5 of their class.
Yeah, they're ready up there. I know they're ready. We just got to get up there, execute, run our plays right, and just try not to make any mistakes.